Welcome to Traveling 101. This is my new series where I'm going to walk you through every step of travel. Everything from deciding where to go to all that's involved with planning your trip, luggage and packing tips, navigating airports and airlines, flying tips, and what to do when you've actually arrived at your destination. Whether you're traveling for the first time or if it's been a while and you need a bit of a refresher, I've got you covered. If you're an experienced traveler, you'll probably know most of this, but just in case, I've got timestamps down below, and I've tried to include some of my very best tips, so I think there might be some little nuggets of wisdom sprinkled throughout. In this episode, I'm starting with how to plan a trip from scratch. I'll cover how to choose your destination, how to do trip research, finding things to do, creating your itinerary, and booking flights and hotels. First, let's talk about how to choose where and when to go. Deciding on a destination is super exciting, but there are a few key things to consider before booking your trip. This is obviously quite subjective and circumstantial, but if you've ever felt like you just want to go somewhere for a week but don't know where to go, here's a few things that I would do. First, I would start with finding out what destinations are a direct nonstop flight from the airport you'll be flying out of. I use flightconnections.com, which provides an overview of all the flight routes worldwide. So for example, just type in your departure airport. I will use Calgary, Alberta as an example. That's YYC airport code. Then you can see all the direct flights that are offered. So if I click on Puerto Vallarta, on the left, it shows me which airlines fly directly on which days of the week. But you could also think about the type of trip you're in the mood for. Are you looking for a beach getaway or maybe exploring a city in the cooler months? I would also recommend researching peak and off seasons to avoid crowds and possibly save on costs as well. If you have the flexibility, another thing I always recommend is going where the deals are. I've talked about FareDrop before because this is my absolute favorite fare alert service. All you do is add your home airport and it'll send you flight deals as soon as they become available. A while ago, I got an email alert for a great flight deal to Portugal, so I'm headed there in October. There's a free version or a paid version, but even if you book one discounted flight a year, it does pay for itself. Another way to choose where to travel is if you want to travel during a specific time of year. I found this really great map that summarizes the best time to visit every country in the world. This map gives you a quick reference of the best time to visit every destination around the world for the best weather for your vacation. I'll leave a link to this map in the description so you can use it for your next trip. Once you've decided on your destination and the time frame you'll be visiting, I also recommend doing a quick search to see if there are any events like major festivals or public holidays that might impact your plans. Now this could be good or bad. For instance, you might want to visit Mazatlan, Mexico when Carnival is happening, but there will be massive crowds and hotels are going to be a lot more expensive. Now that you've chosen where you're going on vacation, it's time to research things to do. Here are a few of the ways that I do my travel research. Number one is join Facebook groups. There are so many destination-specific Facebook groups that are full of travelers who are currently researching a trip that's similar to yours, or from people who have just returned and provide great trip reports. Honestly, it's a really great way to ask questions or even just snoop around and see what other people are also recommending. I also start with browsing through the main tourism board's website. This gives you a really good high-level overview of some of the most popular things to do and places to see. I also browse tour booking websites like Viator and Get Your Guide. And honestly, I use these websites to book probably 90% of the tours that I take. What I do is I'll type in the city and then sort by traveler rating instead of featured. This gives you an idea of the types of activities and excursions and day trips that you can book, all based on the highest rated tours. I especially love Viator because you can create lists and save the tours that you might want to do. This is great, especially if you're planning a trip like months in advance. And then when you are ready to book, most of the tours are pretty flexible. So this allows you to reserve a spot and you don't really have to pay until usually a day or two beforehand. And you can also earn cash back to use on future tours. In Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, for example, this is how I found the natural hot springs excursion, which to this day is still one of my favorite travel experiences. Occasionally, I also use Airbnb experiences. Often you'll find much more local and immersive experiences on here. So if you've traveled to a destination before and maybe you're looking for some more unique things to do, you'll definitely find them here. For example, this is how we found our sandboarding experience in Cabo, but it's not always this extreme. There's everything from hikes to cooking classes. And of course, searching travel blogs and watching YouTube videos is also part of my research. Alternatively, if you're planning a trip where you'll be visiting several destinations, I like to browse online tour and travel agencies like maybe Trafalgar or Intrepid Travel. This gives you an overview of some of the typical or more classic itineraries. This way you can get an idea of what the main attractions and sites are, and then how long to spend in each place. Another website I like to use is Thatch. Thatch is where you can browse unique travel guides and services that are created by local experts and local bloggers around the world. Many of the guides and maps and itineraries are totally free, or you can purchase custom itineraries. So I've left a link to my Thatch profile if you want some inspiration. You can also use ChatGPT to help you build an itinerary for free. Here's a prompt to get you started. Create a duration, day itinerary for my trip to destination. My interests include list your interests, and my budget is, put your budget in here. I'll be staying at type of accommodation in preferred neighborhood or area. Please consider the season/weather and any additional information that might be relevant to this trip. Obviously, replace what's in the brackets with the information that you have. Now that you know where you're going, it's time to find a place to stay. Choosing the right accommodation can really make or break your trip, so here are some key questions to ask yourself before you book your hotel or Airbnb. The first thing I do is determine the area I want to stay in. Normally, this would be somewhere close or within easy access to most of the places and attractions I'll be visiting. Sometimes it is worth it to pay a little more for a more expensive hotel that's closer to all the attractions. This is usually the case when you have limited time in an area. Other times, it's beneficial to stay in a neighborhood maybe a little further out. This means it's usually less expensive, maybe a little quieter, and maybe a little less touristy. However, this all depends on each destination, the type of traveler you are, and what your budget is, and how long you're planning to stay. So when you've narrowed down the areas to stay, think about the amenities that are most important to you. Do you want to be on a quiet street? Do you want a view or somewhere maybe with a balcony or a terrace perhaps? Do you need a kitchen or a kitchenette or at least something with a little fridge or coffee maker? Do you want somewhere that includes breakfast? Do you need laundry facilities? How much space do you need? So I always read through as many reviews as I can handle. Make sure you sort the reviews by most recent and not by most helpful, because some reviews from maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, those could no longer be relevant. Then you can also filter or look for words like noise, smell, dirt, safe, sleep, quiet, and Wi-Fi. These are the most common complaints and can help you avoid a bad stay. You can also use ChatGPT to help you with this. So you can use a prompt that's similar to something like this. Summarize the reviews from hotel name, focusing on key points like service, food, cleanliness, amenities, and any major pros or cons mentioned by guests. So you can link to reviews from Google or TripAdvisor, for example. If you want ChatGPT to summarize the reviews from Google, all you have to do is search for the hotel name on Google. In the search results, find the hotel's Google listing with reviews, address, and ratings. Then click on the Share button. This is usually next to the address or map section. Copy the link from the pop-up and paste it into ChatGPT. For a little more accuracy, though, I like to spend a little more time. What I'll do is I'll copy and paste the most recent, maybe 20 or 25 reviews, and then get ChatGPT to summarize those reviews. Now, which site should you use to book your hotel? First, if you use travel credit cards, you might have enough points for a free stay through programs like Marriott or Hilton. And even if you don't think you have points or hotel status, I'll refer you to this handy Transfer Partners cheat sheet. This is where you can easily compare and track which bank points transfer to your favorite airlines and hotel alliances. So if you think you might have some miles or points that you haven't used yet, you can check this sheet and see how you can get the most out of them. I've left a link to this page below, and if you want more information about maximizing miles and points for free travel, check out my website too. If you're not going to go the points or loyalty program route, I regularly use third-party websites like Booking, Expedia, and Planet, because sometimes hotels don't actually have their own websites. Now, if you're not going to go the points or loyalty program route, and if you're going to be staying in a few different places, it's nice to put all the hotels lined up in your profile. And honestly, you can rack up rewards or status with these platforms too, which does save you money on future stays. I usually shop around for the best price on all three. Lately, I've been finding Planin is usually cheaper for the exact same rooms compared to other booking sites, but definitely shop around and compare prices. My rule of thumb, though, for booking a stay on any of these sites is to make sure there's at least 40 to 50 reviews, and obviously the more the better. And when you make your booking, double check the check-in date is correct and that all of your information is also correct. These two things can help avoid 95% of the problems people face when issues do arise with these platforms. Otherwise, if you're going to be staying at a chain hotel like Marriott or Hyatt, it's usually best to book direct since you can rack up rewards points as well. And another tip I like to share is that the best room in a cheaper hotel is often better than a standard room in a more expensive one. So don't just look at star ratings. Look at what you're actually getting for your money. Now let's move on to flights. Flights can be tricky to book at the right time for the best price, but here's some general tips. I'll start with referring to the Transfer Partners cheat sheet because you get a lot more value with your points for airfare than for hotel stays. According to Expedia's 2024 Air Travel Hacks report, the ideal time to book domestic flights is about 28 days in advance. For international travel, the best window is typically around 60 days before departure, though it is recommended to book earlier for peak travel periods like holidays or summer. Additionally, Google Flights analyzed 5 years of data and found that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday departures tend to be about 12% cheaper than weekend flights. You can use websites like Google Flights, Skyscanner, and Kayak to compare prices, but then book your flight through the actual airline website and not the third-party sites. Now, when you've found a flight that you want to book, sometimes you'll get to select your seat, and this is usually for a fee. So this is up to you whether or not you want to pay, or you can wait to check in for your flight 24 hours before departure, and you may get to choose where to sit from the remaining seats. If you do want to choose your seat, you can use a website such as seatguru.com. Here you can just plug in your airline and the type of aircraft, and it'll provide you with a seat map with some tips about which seats you might want to avoid. Some seat maps have reviews and tips from other passengers as well. I don't think this site has been updated since about 2022, but it is still useful for many flights. Another alternative is Airlopa. This is another one that you could use for newer aircrafts. As far as where to sit on the plane, it really depends on your needs and your preferences. Some people want to be close to the bathroom for easy access, and that's fine, but just remember that if you're too close, like within maybe a few rows, you'll probably have to deal with people constantly lining up beside your aisle seat. And don't forget to check the baggage policies carefully. Some budget airlines may offer great fares, but extra bag fees can really add up. Always make sure to read what bags come with your airfare. So that wraps up part 1 of my Traveling 101 series. In the next episode, I'll dive into packing, luggage options, and all the preparations you need to make before your trip. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.